how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. We already talked about the books that I loved in 2019 and the books that I'm expecting in 2020, and it is finally time to pick apart the books that I loved and hated in 2019. I usually don't do this video, but this year I have a lot to say. So without further ado, let's dive into it. The first book that disappointed me so much this year that I cannot stop talking about it is The Devouring by Christina Layton Herman. This book was pitched as the Raven Cycle inspired story. I love the Raven Cycle, one of my favorite series of all time. I love light fantasy and urban fantasy. So I was excited for another story about occult stuff and creepy forests and demons and magical abilities. But at the end of the day, this story reminded me of so many other young adult stories that I've read in the past, and only by the end I started seeing something original, which is a lot because this book is not exactly thin. I didn't develop any attachments to any of the characters because they reminded me of other characters that I know and love, and at the end of the book I realized that I simply don't care what's going to happen to them. I simply don't care what's going to happen to the plot. I am not scared, I am not elated, I am not excited about this story anymore, and I'm not going to continue with the sequel unless someone comes out with a fantastic review and tells me that this book is phenomenal, it's like nothing they've read before, but I doubt it. I would give a chance to one of her other books because there was nothing wrong with her writing per se, and because she tends to write in a subgenre subsection with subplots that I enjoy. She also is huge on bisexual characters, so there are some buzzwords I'm interested in when it comes to her work, but I don't think I'd ever get back to this series in particular. The next book I actually own, but I cannot find it because I think I've put it somewhere to on hold. It is The Power by Naomi Alderman. So a lot of people were hyping it up. It won a Bailey's Prize, I believe, and I thought it's going to be super deep because people were throwing this word around a lot in their reviews, how it's so phenomenal and something they've never thought about before. I found this book so basic. It took me so much time to read because I couldn't handle the idea that this message is somehow innovative. The basic plot of this book is women start developing powers that allow them to electrocute other people, so they slowly start turning the power imbalance around and taking over male-dominated spaces. It's a pretty interesting concept, and I wanted to know what Naomi Alderman is going to do with it. My main issue with this book is that the final message is not that original, and trying to make it into this huge thing that no one ever thought about is a bit ridiculous because we all know that unchecked power is bad in anyone's hands, and the gender of the person that holds this much power doesn't matter at the end of the day. I don't think that this message is revolutionary. Also, this book is incredibly boring because you know what's going to happen. I'm also not a huge fan of the disjointed narrative and dystopian genre in general, so these two things might be a reason why I also had such a reaction to this book. The next book wasn't my most anticipated reads of 2019. It is The Love and Lies of Rukhsana by Sabina. Some people really like this book, and I do not understand it. It has one of the worst tropes that exists in queer fiction, and the person that perpetuates it is a straight woman. I believe that she is a straight woman. Maybe I'm wrong. My problem with the story is that it's awkwardly written. The author is not very comfortable when it comes to writing queer stories in general, or so it seems, and it had to go through more editing cycles because right now it reads like a collection of diary entries, and it wasn't supposed to be a collection of diary entries. The story is about a teenage Bengali girl named Rukhsana who is caught by her parents with her girlfriend and who is sent away to Bangladesh to her relatives to hopefully get into an arranged marriage and be healed from her sexuality. It's a very tough topic because it exists at an intersection of culture that is not Western and sexuality. I feel like a lot of things surrounding the culture, the Bengali culture, the tradition was done very well, the relationship that Rukhsana has with her parents was an interesting part of the story. But everything that was about queerness was so wrong. Wrong in a way where I couldn't connect to anything. I couldn't connect to her feelings, to her girlfriend, because there were none. All the conflicts surrounding that were so on the nose and lacked nuance. And they didn't have any chemistry at all, so rooting for them was very hard. The other thing about the story that I despised is the ending. It is completely unbelievable. The story has so many tone shifts. Rukhsana forgives her parents for doing the most so easily, as if it never happened. I wanted this book to be so good, and I think a different order would have done it better. So I hope that someone is going to write something similar in the future and do it better. But this book only earned 2 stars from me, and I was gracious. Him by Sarina Bowen and Elle Kennedy is the book that I wouldn't have given this much attention or time to, because it's one of those romances written by cis straight women that are deeply problematic, but they exist and there are a lot of them. I would have to constantly rant about them. What pisses me off about this book so much is the reaction of the reading community. The adult romance reading community is acting as if this book is so holy. It's a savior of romance genre, and it is annoying to say the least. Because this book is such a classic I'm only gay for you book. It has so many problematic tropes, and the whole point of this is fucking, because adult men are clearly not capable of having conversations. It's very cliche, there's nothing new to it, and they even dared to pull out from actual gay experience. They even included Grindr. They renamed it to something else, I don't remember. The audacity of these 2 women. I'm not trying to police anyone. If you're interested in this book, read it. It has a very cool premise. I'm not going to haunt you as a ghost because of it, but reading it is not an especially pleasant experience if you're a queer person. I think what aggravates me the most is that they published a sequel to this. The next book was only interesting for me and no one else in the reading community. It is a tie-in novel to the Carmilla web series, which is one of my favorite web series of all time. They had 4 seasons of the web series, and then they came out with a movie which was also pretty good. The web series is a modern adaptation of Carmilla, the classic gothic novel. It is about Laura, who is a teenage detective wannabe who starts in a new university and whose roommate is missing. She is assigned a new roommate who is Carmilla the vampire, and Laura starts suspecting that Carmilla is somehow tied to the case of missing girls. This series has queer characters in the center of it, the love story between Laura and Carmilla, and it has an actual happy ending. There's a lot of humor, it's very entertaining, and I love all the characters. What I expected from the book is that it's going to take the original story, the story of this web series, and it's going to give me more. It turned out to be a word-for-word book. I didn't get much new information, and when I watched the web series I wanted to know what's happening in other rooms, because this series is mostly filmed in one room. When it comes to the first season that this book covers, it is set only in Carmilla's and Laura's bedroom, and a lot of stuff is happening outside of the bedroom and characters come in and talk about it. I wanted to see what happened to other characters. I wanted to see all the adventures they went on. And this book failed to do that, and I was very disappointed because I wanted a full-fledged novel and I got a script. I still really love the web series, I love the movie, and I guess I just have to forget that this book exists. The last book that I'm going to talk about in this video is Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I left the best for the end. I know that people love this book, and I'm of 2 minds here. This book gave me everything I wanted to see for these characters, but it lacks space. It has all the right ingredients, but it lacks space for those ingredients to cook correctly. So in my opinion, it is literally an outline and not a full book. I don't know what happened to Holy Black because the first two books were pretty descriptive. There was plenty of detail in those two books. And the last one, when I was reading it, I felt like she had other obligations, or that she was threatened to write it, or that she was paid only for a certain amount of words, because it's extremely short and unsatisfying. It is only from the point of view of Jude, which I don't think was a wise choice, because a lot of interesting things happened in this book with other characters, and without showing that, it felt undeserved that they developed so quickly. It's very apparent with Taryn, it's very apparent with Carden, and I don't know what to think about that. Overall, I still find this series a highlight of my 2019, but this last book lacked something. It lacked something special for me. It lacked the complexity of the previous two books. I do appreciate as a proud perv that she never allowed us to forget that Carden has a tail. The tail was very prominent in the third book. I still had so many issues with it. And the main issue is that it's not a real book. These are all the books that I want to mention in this video. They were the most disappointing to me. I've given other books 2 and 1 star this year, I believe. You can check them out on my Goodreads page, but I didn't have any expectation for them, and because of that, they did not disappoint me. They were just not good. Thank you for watching this video. In the comments down below, tell me which books you found the most disappointing in 2019 as well. And I'll see you soon with another video, but until then,